You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, yeah. We just, we'll do a roll call here. All right, we're gonna get started here. Page, Dr. Howard, I still at work. I want to do that. I want to get on the PA system at the hospital. Dr. Howard, find Dr. Howard. Yeah, I just want to do it once. Maybe my last day if I work when I leave. All right, I'd like to call this November 14th Criminal Justice Committee meeting to order. This will be the final meeting for this board. And thank you to the committee and the department heads for the last 2 years. And we will get this meeting started. Roll call, please.
Mr. Byrne, Mr. Hess, Mr. Washington, Mr. Legess, Mr. Vickery, Mr. Tholen, Mr. Snipes, Mr. Seroy, Mr. Einfeld, Miss Evans, Mr. Payton, Miss Dunbar, Miss Parker, Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Zenz, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Lear.
Alrighty. I have no public commentary at the time. I need approval of the minutes from October 10th, 2018. Motion, Mr. Legess, second by Mr. Vickery. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Chief Judge is not here. Circuit Clerk, I need a motion to approve the monthly report. Mr. Zenz, second by Mr. Payton. All in favor? Opposed? Yes. Morning.
So, going through the reports, if anybody has any questions on the end of period disbursements, I can answer those questions.
She's on, yeah.
Is that better?
Oh, there we go.
Got to get closer. Yeah. Okay. We dispersed $351,270.36 this last month. The open inventory that we sent to Harris & Harris shows that for so far the 2018 total, we sent 3,408 cases to them, and you can see the breakdown of what they are. Then on the next page is what we've collected. So the month of October we collected $85,538, which was, a little about 14,000 more than last year at this time, and we've collected 1.192,455 so far this year through their program, and that includes the iDrop that we send the cases to iDrop as well. Those are done in we send the big file to the comptroller's office in January, and then they start running through their records to see who they can find that are paying Illinois state taxes, and then we collect the taxes from them first. And on that note, this year they just called me and told me that they are going to now add the date of birth as part of their collection criteria. They didn't do that before, so they were pulling money in from all over the place, and we were having to respond to several calls and returning money because money was collected from the wrong people. And we kept saying, why can't you use the date of birth? And they just wouldn't listen to us. And so finally this year I was so happy when they finally told me that. That'll take away a lot of our problems. The state's attorney court call report, these are cases that they do on their own without sending it to any outside collection agency, and that this month they collected $8,400, $84,16.16. So their grand total for this year is $84,638.85, and the grand total of that is $175,655.86. Any questions on those reports?
Anything from Ms. Cianci? Mr. Legess.
Exactly what is that call court? mean,
The what?
How do they derive the money?
The court call,
Yeah.
they do notices and petitions, and they actually have a court call. And so then, I'm not sure, I don't go to that court. Marlo, do you know who goes to that court from your office? Okay. So they go to court, and the people come to court and pay, things like that. They get on a payment plan with a court order through the judge. So every little bit helps. As far as our office goes, we've worked a few more Saturdays. We've had a couple out on FMLA. One has been intermittent, another one has been straight for a couple of weeks, and she's still out. So hopefully she'll be back soon. We're going to testing for e-filing integration with Courtview and Odyssey Tyler. So we're getting closer to that, finalizing that process. And we're still moving forward with the integration of e-citation. I have a special fund to pay for it, and I talked to Courtview, and that will not add to our annual maintenance fee that I already have with them, so that's a good thing. I talked about iDrop. They're also going to track people's lotto winnings and add that to part of the list of things that they will try to collect from. So that'll be interesting to see if we'll be able to tell. I'm not sure. This year the felonies are up, and the reason why I know that is because we ran out of our files that we had pre-numbered. So that's an interesting point. And with the amnesty cases that we've done so far, the state's attorney's allowed an amnesty program for this month of November, and 86 cases, right around 86 cases have been paid. Most of them, like 83 of them, were traffic and a couple of DUIs and one conservation ticket. So they're coming in, and what that is they have to come in and pay the amount that is owed in full, and there will not be the additional collection fee, the 30%, and they have to do it in the office and pay the ticket in full, or the misdemeanor cases or felonies. We've had an interest of people wanting to pay off those misdemeanors and felonies so then they can move forward with expungements a lot easier and cleaner. So that's where some of the interest is going right now. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Sandy. Sorry about this. And this is for the Finance Committee. I know you're going to be also coming in with some to the Finance Committee regarding some other things you were talking about, or no?
What other things?
Well, didn't you have something that you were going to bring to the Finance Committee? I said wait till.
Well, that has to do with the e-citation. In my budgeting, I did not. In my special funds, I did not. I don't know what you want to call it. Put in my budget request that I wanted to spend X amount of dollars out of that fund.
And
I just had.
We were going to wrap it in later when we did some amendments. That
correct.
Was it. Okay, because we had already put the budget on display.
Correct.
Okay.
So the budget's already done, so I'm going to ask for an amendment to that fund so that we can cover the payment whenever we finally get the bill later on.
Sure. Okay. And I knew there was something. I wanted to at least let this committee
Okay.
know that you're going there. The other thing is I wanted to ask you about the statutory authority of the circuit clerk to have offline funds. That report came out from the auditor the day before the election. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't.
Okay. As far as people having offline funds, and were you in office in 09? Were you in your
I was not in
You were
office.
not
I
in
was
office.
I
Okay.
was in office.
Seems to me I think I saw something from Kathy Thomas and Bob Dad, but there was some discussion about that. The auditor, I've been getting calls from the newspaper, so I wanted to see if you could maybe find out for me if there are any statutes that you're able to at least work with the state's attorney to identify where one of these offline funds is ones that we audit every year with an outside auditor. There was that was part of the finding from this year in that fund when it was not being audited.
Which
internally.
fund are we talking about?
It's an offline fund, and I can't give you the exact name of it right now because I'm still putting together all the information, but I'm trying to figure out from your point of view, statutorily, there are some offices that can have offline funds outside of the purview of the county board. At least it's part of the treasury, but it's not part of our accounts.
Okay.
If you can do some digging for me, that would
Okay.
be helpful, because I see where memos went out in '09 to department heads, sheriff, county clerk, circuit clerk, and other ones about offline accounts, and how the county board had passed a resolution to pull them all online.
Okay.
And I know there was some pushback because some of the department heads back then said, well, you don't have that authority. I have the authority to have this offline account. What I'm trying to do is put the information together so I can at least inform the board and the media, and I will ask for the help of the state's attorney's office. But there is some, I don't know, frustration that the phone wasn't picked up and called, and we weren't talked to about this before it was released to the public, and it shed some light on some things that may or may not be proper or improper. We just don't know yet. So what you can help me by looking through your statutes to see what allows you to have an offline fund and why it would be under your purview. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Sure.
We
Well,
need that help.
I've got, I'm going down to the county officials conference today, actually, so I'll be able to talk to other clerks and find out what they know.
Okay, I did find a big file on it that I'm in the process of going through from 2009, and not many board members probably knew that this was even out there.
Okay.
Mr. Washington excluded. I'm sure he did. So,
Yeah. Sure, I can
so
do that.
thanks for your help. I
Uh-huh.
appreciate it.
Thank you. State's Attorney, Mr. Marlowe. Need a motion to approve the monthly report, grand jury report. Mr. Legess, seconded by Mr. Vickery. All in favor? Opposed? How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. As you can see from the report, to date, the grand jury has charged a total of 676 individuals with felonies in 2018. That's up 5% from last year, and it's about 40% more than it was in 2016. The main offenses have been drug offenses, felony domestic batteries, which are individuals that may the situation may have involved strangling, or the person had prior convictions for domestic battery, and then gun offenses. Those are the top three offenses for the felonies so far this year. One of the interesting things is that even though the felonies are going up, it's not that crime is going up. The number of cases that have been referred to the state's attorney's office has gone down, but the ones that are being referred, we are doing more charging. So that's good news. But if you have any questions about the reports, they were, I believe, included, right, in the packet. So that's kind of where we are today.
Any questions at all? Mr. Snipes? He's thinking of the question. He's got to think of one question. Remember, you're allotted two.
Of those charged, how many of those are completed, or how many of those were like successful, where the charge, I mean, we won versus those being dismissed? Do we take a look at those cases that we didn't win to determine how I have a strategy as to how, if we look at them, to make them successful? That makes sense.
Totally understand. Well, first, we don't tally sort of like the wins or losses. We don't really do it that way. However, after every case, we do have a conference with our team to talk about issues in the case. Sometimes it could be the evidence. There was enough to charge it, but we didn't have enough to convince a jury. It could also be witnesses didn't show up. There's a number of reasons that it could have resulted in either a dismissal or a not guilty. But we do, as an office, have discussions like that, but we just don't keep track of it. But I'll let the state's attorney know. Maybe that's something that you guys might want to hear in the future, and maybe we can implement that.
Right. I look at that because of the resources. We look at the cases. I do know that he was trying the one case, and I think they put all the efforts into it. We didn't prevail, but it looks like from that it's stepping forward and not really backwards, because
Yes.
he's bringing that to light. So he's kind of in that initial stage of kind of opening that water, and I guess the public is now kind of looking at it from a viewpoint that the state's attorney is in order to come after individuals. So that's why I kind of had some questions there. And then sometimes I've noticed that you can get the charges through the grand jury, but by the time it gets to the jury, there's some variables that the jury doesn't see eye with the grand jury, and
Right.
as a result, the cases are messed up.
Right.
I was just wondering.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Washington.
Marlo Jones. Good to meet you too, sir.
Oh, okay. Great name.
Yes, Chairman.
I thought everybody knew who Marlo was. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
World famous in Kankakee County.
Yes, he is.
This is, I don't expect an answer, but I'd maybe talk to Jim about this for a future meeting. We, as a committee, we expected our numbers to go down after the new sentencing guidelines were put out there. I believe at the beginning of this year. And the opposite has happened. We went from around 220, I guess, roughly to around 270. And, those are, it's not free. And,
Right.
It puts a strain on both staffing and finances, while we're not asking for any, I don't want to say leniency or any, don't put them, incarcerate them. I'm trying to look for a reason. Has the behavior shifted? Is it because we're continually picking up, releasing? Is that part of the circle? Because, they get out, and maybe Tom can speak to this a little bit, but I'm just trying to get my head around why are we seeing 270 when we thought it might go down below 200, as a group. And I don't expect an answer. Maybe you have something, but maybe down the road we can figure that out.
You're talking about the number of felonies?
The ones that are actually here and incarcerated here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we thought with the new with the guidelines that they'd be getting released mostly on recogs. And we expected a financial impact in the circuit clerk's office.
Yeah.
But while we can work on recidivism and all those other things, it's just kind of backwards of what we thought was going to happen.
I got you. I know that Jim has been looking at things like that, and we do get a report as well from Chad, the chief of the jails, regarding the number of inmates that are here and then how long they've been here. Now, there are some situations where, for example, certain traffic cases, if a person is driving on a suspended license for a certain number of times and they're convicted again, it's a mandatory 180 days. So there's nothing really we can do outside, other than not charge the person. And there are other opportunities too that we have recog people. We sort of do it on a case-by-case basis. We've been creative in, especially in traffic again, doing weekend jail, where they check in on the weekend and check out on Mondays so they can keep their jobs. And then, of course, we have the diversion program, where we are actually looking at almost every case to see if there's an opportunity to divert it from the criminal justice system, and do alternatives so that people aren't incarcerated. Yeah, community service, community accountability class. So we are definitely looking at those things, but I'll let him know your concerns and see if we can kind of
maybe
address
just
that.
look at it on a graph sense,
Okay.
what it was before, in 16, 17, and compared to where we're at in 18. And there may be something that comes out of that.
Okay.
It's just a thought, because I don't know if the other people on this committee have that same feeling, but I thought it was going to go the other way substantially, and it hasn't. So,
Okay.
thanks.
I will definitely share that with him.
All right.
Good. I know that there's a proposal that's coming up that's going to do what I don't particularly care for it to do, but that's legalize marijuana. Do you see, because of what, I don't know the limits as to what they're going to allow and not allow, but do you see that being a decrease in the drug area, or do we look at some educational programs or whatever, if they're over the limit, if it is legalized, to what extent, I don't know. Are y'all kind of looking at that, because would that have an impact on individuals that were arrested before? Because I don't know what direction they're going to take that will now cause these individuals' records either be expunged or whatever. What kind of work is that going to be for your legal department?
Honestly, it's too early to tell because we don't know what the new statute will be. We don't know what the limitations will be. But we will definitely take a look at it if that does happen, if it does become legal. The big issue for us, even if it becomes legal, and if there's illegal sales still, that would be a concern. We wouldn't necessarily deal or focus on the person that's using marijuana, but if there's illegal sales of marijuana, that's something that still could be an issue for the community.
Would those pharmacy take those what they call themselves?
Dispensaries?
Pharmaceutical, unlicensed technicians still be charged? And because I wonder if you want to legalize marijuana, does it have to go through the legal process and not anybody can just sell it and grow it, which makes it a havoc in your community?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. We don't know what the new law will be. But if, drug sales bring, they're byproducts of illegal drug sales and the violence, the high traffic and things like that. So if those are still issues that we can address, we'll definitely do that. But at this point, it's really too early to tell because we don't know what the legislation is going to be.
Anything else?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I don't see Gus, public defender, not here. I need a motion to approve his monthly report. Mr. Evans, Mr. Legess, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Sheriff, Chief McCabe, come on down. You're the winner.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
Great. Morning, everybody. Sheriff's in training. This is a good thing, I guess. You have the report there. If there's any questions, I'll field them real quick before I cover a couple things I'd like to go over.
Any questions for Chief McCabe?
As you can see, the numbers keep moving in a positive category. Obviously, the average monthly is back above what we were doing in 12 and 13, which is a good thing. It doesn't at this point seem that there's going to be any slowdown in business. To cover the chairman's question earlier, and I don't have actual hard data on it, but I believe what's happening is people are actually getting charged now. It's a Jim Rowe factor. Criminals are getting charged like they should be appropriately, and Marlowe and Jim and his staff are kicking butt and taking names and locking up people. These lower level crimes that are getting released weren't even getting charged, but now he's charging these felons with these felonies, and by their numbers it kind of bears proof to what they're doing. They're doing their job and they're doing it well, and that makes everybody in this room in Kankakee County safer. So I think that's what's happening.
Yes, Mr.
And
Chairman.
just to note, these aren't like offenses that, since they're staying here in the county facility, they're not offenses that you're able to be recogned on, is what you're saying. These are
Correct.
offenses
Yes,
that
they're good.
Yeah.
They're good, solid felony cases, and they don't fall into you don't have to post bond, and the category B's they get Marlo, they get $30 or $35 a day for every $30 a day for every day. So after they're 20 days in custody, some of them are well, not bonding out, but they're bonding out. There's not actually any transfer of money, but yeah, they're good, solid felony cases, and we're holding more because he's charging more. Seems to make sense just with their numbers, and again, that's not a study. A couple things real quickly here. Tragically, Mr. Dan Jarsky was our missing person from Grant Park. He was found in Will County, tragically deceased. It appears at this point it was suicide, but that is still an open investigation, and they're trying to wrap up some things, so that's an unfortunate ending to a very sad situation, and we need to thank all our partners, the Illinois State Police, all the search teams. Will County was great. This community really comes together when we have something like that and pours a lot of resources. There was a ton of resources out there searching in some really tough situation with gunfire going off all around them because it was dove season. So it turned out very sadly, but he has been recovered, and I think they released his autopsy results, or they're going to here soon. That they released his identity last night. That he was positively identified by Will County coroner. It was in Will County. Brady, do you know exactly where? North side of river, west of Warner Bridge Road. He was, from my understanding, I went out there, the sheriff was, and said it was very thick, and you know, he was in a place that it was very difficult until the foliage disappeared to find him, whereas he didn't want to be found.
Is hunting area 7, is that Will or Kankakee County?
Well, okay. So we want to thank again all our partners that helped us with that. That's a tragic end, but it's really a pretty incredible thing when you see the resources that everyone puts forth to something like that to try and find an individual. Again, I don't have much to go over. If you look at the citation levels, the troops are out there doing it. I'm trying to drive down that fatal crash numbers. You know, last year it was 19, which is totally, any number is unacceptable, but trying to push it back down into single digits, which it was for quite a few years. And there's usually a couple year lag time because we didn't have anybody, and you know, us and the state police and everybody else, there was a real lack of enforcement. And people drive directly related to the level of enforcement. If you got out on 57, you'd see, you know, you're doing 70 and people are going by 100 mile an hour because they know we or nobody else are out there to stop them. We see that on our county roads, and in my law enforcement experience, like a pendulum. When we do a lot of enforcement, the fatals drop, and we're going to push to get that done again because there's 19 individuals that you know, died on our roadways. There's, you know, over 30,000 every year that die in the United States in traffic crashes, and I don't think one of them ever thought, hey, I'm going to die in a traffic crash, but there's 30,000 people, families impacted, and we can directly impact that by our enforcement level. So our troops are out there doing it again. They're really pushing it out there, and I think the word's starting to get out. We need to start slowing down and pay attention in Kankakee County, and that's the word we want out there, because we want people to drive safe and get home to their families and enjoy their lives. Any questions?
We will be targeting the holiday season to kind of put individuals out there.
Yeah, we have some some plans from some enforcement during the holiday season. Traditionally, I think people know that there's a little extra effort put out there because of impaired driving and such. I can tell you our DUIs rest, and it's not tracked on this report, but maybe someday we should be doing that. Are way up from where they've been in the past, and people have got to know you can't drive impaired, because if you are, you know, in Kankakee County, you're going to get caught, and it's going to be an expensive endeavor. You're going to lose your license, and there's nothing in the bucket list I think anybody wants to check off on if you get a DUI, these things happen to you. I don't think anybody wants to do that, and they don't realize, they don't think it can happen to them until it happens to them, and then they're thrown in a system and they spend, you know, $10,000+ and it's just a bad deal. But you know, that's the chance they're taking if they're out there driving impaired.
Anything else for Chief McCabe?
Hush now. Thank you.
You're here all week. Tip your waitress. Yeah, we motion in. Oh. Yeah. All right, probation. We'll make a motion to approve. It's safe. Make a motion to approve. Mr. Washington. 7. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Probation monthly report. Motion to approve the monthly report. Ms. Parker, Mr. Seroy. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Hello, sir.
Good morning. As you can see real quick, bottom of the report, we had 829 successful field contacts and 2,035 successful office contacts, totaling a little over 2,800 for October. Did 74 investigations and 180 drug tests. Juvenile population, we screened 25 for detention and detained, it says on the report 4, but we have 5 in custody right now at River Valley. So pretty standard report, monthly report. I went through it quick if there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Latham?
I don't have much. Just to let you know, we currently have a vacancy. We had a 13-year employee resign a few weeks ago. That person worked in our drug court and veterans court, so they did a great job. So it's quite a loss. But we have internal posting going on. Some people move around like they always do, and then we'll post that position, that vacancy wherever it falls in our adult or juvenile division. We'll get that posted and hopefully get that filled pretty soon. We also we submitted a grant through PC Casa. It's a group effort which might get us another position, a fully funded position. I thought we might hear by now, but we haven't, but very soon. So we could be filling hiring 2 people, so it'd be a good thing. But I'll keep you posted on that. And last, the only thing I have is drug court auction, which was held October 26th. Raised a little over $16,000, or cleared $16,000, compared to a little over $11,000 last year. So they did a lot better this year. I just wanted to thank everyone here who donated, was there, supported it, and in the past has supported it and gone. It's it's obviously really helps. That goes to pay for a lot of the drug testing and other things that we have to do, and that's getting more expensive every year. And with certain types of drugs, we have to test more often. So we have to increase the amount of tests, and the cost of tests are increasing. So that money is very important. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for that. So that's all.
All right. There you go.
What is the ratio between the PD and the clients that you serve, the interesting clients that you serve? Is that ratio?
You mean caseload size type?
Right.
Well, it varies. Some regular caseloads are up around a little over 100 per officer. Our specialized caseloads like drug court could be 40 to 1. So intensive probation, sex offenders, they're all smaller, more specialized, so they can do more intense supervision.
You don't see that number going down, or is it kind of just lead it out at par?
Overall, in the last 6 months, our numbers have dipped a little bit, but that happens and they shoot back up, overall for the year, what we supervised. But things are a little more specialized. There's a lot of specialized caseloads now, which means there's smaller caseloads per officer. So the work is a little more work for the number we're dealing with. So.
Mr. Vickery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, on the River Valley detention, are we monitoring that? And then we don't have to make payments now, is that it?
That's correct. For several years, we won't. It'll be being pulled from the equity, or is that the way to say it, Andy? From the, yeah, we do have a system in place. In fact, I was just talking to River Valley how they're going to bill us quarterly for it, and we have a system in place of how we're going to compare that with our in-house information, make sure everything's correct, so we can see how that money, that fund is being paid down. We can monitor that. So that's all in place.
Very good. That's a great financial boost to the
Yes.
county. And the next thing is, how's our grant payments? I'm always interested in the money. And
I came in here this morning, I saw you, and you're going to ask me. And one thing I didn't look at, but we haven't received anything for 19.
okay,
But I even shut off an email trying to get a response because I knew you were going to ask me. But I know for 19, we haven't received anything yet. But I'm hoping we have to file an annual plan every year. They kind of like to hold the grant and aid for the new fiscal year until that until that annual plan is received and approved. We submitted it well before the deadline. I just spoke to AOIC yesterday, and we're supposed to get an approval letter even next week. They were finalizing it. So once it's approved, I think after next week we'll start seeing some fiscal year 19 grant and aid come in. So on our end, we're doing it. In compliance with time.
you won't have to worry next month. I won't be here.
No,
so
no. I'll call you. We'll
I'll check online.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Corner. Mr. Gessner. Need a motion to combine and approve monthly report. Mr. Snipes, second by Mr. Hess. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Morning.
Good morning, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Corner, how are you?
last year to 26. This year, as I've always said, it's a part of the police agencies. Our office getting out to doing different educations throughout the county. We have two pending right now. It might be going to 28 here. Also, I want to talk about the grant. We got some good news on our grant. That was $225,000 we were awarded again. I thought I could talk loud enough. The $225,000 grant we got for the Narcan, there was an extra $100,000 given to us, which gives us a total of $325,000 this year for the Narcan. It also came at a good time because the Narcan went from $37 to $114. So isn't that that's great, you know. So that's every 2 years we've got to redo all the police officers in the county, which we will be able to do. We'll continue. We're continuing with our education. Tomorrow night, we hope that everybody is out there. You saw what tremendous we're doing as far as education. I'd like to see a lot of county board members there. Tomorrow night we're at BVCH from 6 to 8 p.m. on our opioid forum. This is what's going on in Kankakee County, and why are we reducing, and where are we reducing at, and what's going on as far as a possibility of a detox center coming to our area. So this is stuff that we've been working on. I'm very proud to be able to do these programs out here, and I think it's getting out and it's doing the education to the public which we need to have. I do want to recognize too that because of, I'm sure you saw in the newspaper where Iroquois Memorial was bought out by Riverside, which you're probably 9 times out of 10 going to see more cases come this way because of the trauma center here in Kankakee County. And we're also to remind yourself that we also, Riverside covers Newton County and Jasper County, where they're going to all bring all their trauma this way too. So you're seeing that coming towards us, which is going to increase us a little bit. But we're well aware of that. And the other thing I want to talk about that was talked a little bit about was the marijuana. I'm going to look you straight in the eye and tell you what's going to happen here. I told you in 2012 what was coming on with the heroin. And I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen if people don't get out there and talk about not getting medical marijuana. Is fine for the people, but not recreational. I've been spending my last 3 to 4 weeks constantly reviewing and going to different seminars throughout the state here to figure out what's marijuana going to do to us. You know, already waxing is being done here. It's a powerful, they're using the bongs. You see bongs all over the place when we have a death. They smoke that, they get the individual, use a butane into there, smoke that, get that oil down into their, pick their water, smoke that. It's like smoking between 15 and 20 joints at one time. And why do they do that? Because it takes time to wrap a joint, you know. So this is coming. It doesn't mean there's going to be death. But that also, look at the people on the roads now. 0.08 your alcohol. And I found out finally 5 nanograms is a legal limit for marijuana, but it's going to be difficult to get that, to be able to prove that without doing blood work out on the scene or something like that. I'm very concerned about that. There's a new drug called Flakka that's out there. It's just as powerful, a little bit underneath carfentanil. We've already had 2 cases on that in Kankakee County. The numbers are down, the drugs are still out there. And maybe we've held them back, but it doesn't mean they're going to come back. I know that, you know, I'm constantly on this. I'm worried about the marijuana here. I'm going to try to go to Springfield. We meet, the Coroners Association meets Saturday and Sunday in Chicago. I will be there, and that's one of the things that we're going to be bringing up and worried about.
Mr. Seawright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Gessner, we appreciate all the work you do with education and everything. And I want to back you up a little bit and talk about your overdoses this year are down. Do you track your Narcan saves?
Yes.
Are they up?
Well, we were 27 last year, and you can see where we're at here. And right now here, I think we're between 10 to 11. I think right now.
Okay.
They are up. There's sometimes that particular officer, with all the work that they got to do, we don't get the reports back right away. They're up extremely high, and the squad. You know, maybe the police officers arrive at the same time the squad is. The squad's going to do the Narcan. We're not tracking that, but we will be tracking that.
I was just wondering if our Narcan save, if your overdoses are down and our Narcan saves are up, we still, and you say it, but in my mind, fentanyl is still out there in the heroin, you know, and I'm wondering if maybe because of the work the state's attorney's doing, if they're taking the fentanyl out of the heroin and to prevent some of those overdoses. You know, that's I'm just trying to figure out if there's more heroin out there, or are we actually cutting back on the heroin that's out on the street?
There's less heroin out there.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Heroin and fentanyl is in just about every product we're getting through here in Cox.
Wow.
It's a powerful drug. That 4 milligrams is not going to touch fentanyl. It's going to have to go to 8. That's why each officer, especially in the Kankakee County here, officers have 2 to be able to have at least 8 milligrams out of there, and hopefully the police fire department's coming that way. But it is stronger out there. And watching this drug flacca, it's moved around coming from the angle that came before on the heroin, so that's going to be coming out there too. There's much more out there too. There's 400 different types of fentanyl.
Well, I guess the good news is that there's less heroin on the street too. So, I appreciate your work, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, real quick, you also consider the fact that since Narcan is over the counter, that some of these users are utilizing that without us being involved?
That's a possibility. We've, as I think I talked the last time there, that one of the officers told me that out there in the Pembroke area, they found cases of Narcan with the vials. We're seeing the vials now and more needles. It's a trade-off to heroin or drugs. So here you are. Here's this. You can get it over the counter. We've seen it. We've gone out. CVS, Walgreens, needles-wise, you can get. They're still snorting it. Cocaine's come back a little bit. You know, cocaine, fentanyl, or Narcan's not going to help on cocaine. So.
Scary.
It's an opioid we're doing. It is scary. But, each one of our officers, county, are taking good care of. I just took care of them with giving them a container and a tube to be able to pick up the needles. So we're protecting them out there for that. I'm concerned about them out there in the field with the needles. The needles are all over the place. You can ask any officer, we see a lot of needles out there. So, that's a terrible situation. But we will, at this program here, we'll be talking about that. And I'm looking forward to be able to present this to the county.
We'll see you tomorrow night for sure. Yep. Thank you, Bob. Oh, wait, we have questions, sir. Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you. You mentioned the price went to about 120 for Narcan. It went to 120.
114.
Where was it at before?
37.
Is there any other suppliers we can use in the
We're working on that.
Okay, all right.
Oh, believe me.
Your business, not mine, but I mean that's when you start shopping. So.
I also did I forget that one?
Seems like we got a grant and the price went up, so I'm just wondering.
Huh?
We got a grant and the price goes up. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true there. We're well covered on that. It's not costing us a penny, that's for sure. I just wanted to say one other thing too, that in the opioid grant that we've got, everywhere that Eric and I go, and along with the state's attorney goes with us, or whoever, we received now last year in 2017, our reimbursement only came up to $1,659 that we were reimbursed for our wages. This year, right now in October, not November yet, we've hit 17,152 that we'll be able to put back in the general fund for us going out and teaching, which I think is a great job. So it's not costing us a penny when we're out there and putting these forums on them and using people like Tom Latham will be speaking at our forum on the drug court, which I think is a powerful thing, and I'm so happy that he's able to speak tomorrow night.
Mr. Snipes? In the mic.
I do know with the holiday season is probably either our peak or at least our spike. And I do know the educational programs appears that it is effective and it's working. Are we going to beef it up around the holiday seasons to see if we can kind of curtail it, because it looks like that's the season where people either commit suicide or take drugs or whatever it is during that, just the holiday season, because of the loneliness or whatever the reason is. And we kind of looked at that area. We kind of targeted as a.
Well, I think that'd be a question to the, I think he answered it. They're gonna do more things out there, right, Chief? As far as us beefing it up, I
know you out
I
there.
just go, I go pick them up.
Yeah,
You say pick.
I pick them up, I don't.
No, I'm thinking of with the education over to these high schools and all that. So that's what I'm looking at.
Well, I think this forum will it'd be a start there. We're not stopping on that aspect there. We'll be going out to do the prom programs, and we were out at St. Anne out there, and he was saw that program out there. We'll continue to go, and you got to remind yourself that I'm sure that our county and our county deputies are beefed up in understanding what's going on out there. Even though they're shorthanded, they're doing their best of their ability to.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Any old business to come before the committee? Oh, Mr. Vickery.
It's not old business, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. This is my last meeting, and I just wanted to say that all of the department heads that are represented here, Kankakee County is lucky to have the kind of caliber of the people that do the job for Kankakee County, in my opinion. And a particular note to Rob and Chad in corrections. Mike, I'm sure, would agree with me that when we went into negotiations, I had no idea the scope of that job. And I want to say that we've got a good team there, in my opinion, and they certainly know their job. They've got a great rapport with the union, and we were successful primarily because of that relationship. So I just can't say enough for the department heads in this room, in my opinion. As a board member, sometimes you got to make tough choices, okay? And those tough choices came about when they wouldn't let us buy the toilet paper at Menards, and when we had to have Mike and I and a few others go into Steve McCarty's office every week to determine what bills we had to pay, okay? That was a tough time. Anybody can do these jobs when you have money. It's when you don't have money that crap hits the fan, okay? And then one other comment is, when I feel shortage of elucidation, I will check in on the TV to see and get my dose of elucidation.
There you go.
And Bob, I mean that in a good way, okay? I wanted to add a little levity to this, okay? So, thank you very much. Okay.
And thank you for your time, Mr. Vickery. All right, any elucidation, new business? I will use that word today at some point. All right, need a motion for adjournment. Mr. Legess, Mr. Hess, thank you all very much. Have a good Thanksgiving, too.